Now I'm ready. Hey guys, good morning. We are going out to my parents to do some fruit tree pruning today. It's really slippery out here. It is 45 degrees out today. Perfect day to be outside working on something. Even though there's ice and snow, doesn't matter. We're gonna prune some fruit trees. Come on, Jessie, you wanna go down to the orchard? Come on, good girl. So we're down in the orchard now, and before I do any explaining or pruning, maybe we can give you a little bit of a look at what this orchard looks like. It's just a small home garden orchard. There are 14 trees down here of all different varieties, and this is actually where my mom and I are gonna plant all of our dahlias this year. This is where it's gonna go down. I'm so excited. We did a post a few days ago, or a while ago, about Dahlia Garden, and a lot of you chimed in with the varieties that you like the best. So thank you for that. We will be adding some of those into the mix. I think fear is the #1 reason why people kind of shy away from fruit trees, because they're afraid to prune. They're afraid that they're going to mess up their fruit crop, the yield for this year. As long as you know a few key things about fruit tree pruning, you really can't screw it up that bad. So the first thing that I do is I do cleanup work. That's step 1. So we're going to clean out anything that's diseased, damaged, or dead. So the 3 Ds. Just remember those: disease, damage, dead. That's what we're gonna do for the first step. So I saw some broken branches over on a tree over here. We'll show you. So right here, there's some broken branches. We wanna make sure to go in there and clean those off, just like that. When you're making your cuts, you wanna do about 1/4 inch up from the main stem. You don't wanna leave long stubs, but you don't wanna get it too close either. So just about 1/4 inch is about right. Okay, so this tree is showing a little bit of a possible disease. Right around this, I mean, you can see right here, that looks like a potential split that's gonna happen. So we're gonna be watching this really closely. It's not squishy or slimy or anything, so we'll just watch it. There are a couple spots on the branches too. I don't know if you can see that. Something's going on, so we're gonna take that branch out. So I think that this, since we have a branch right here, we've got a nice branch coming up this way to fill that spot, I'm going to take this whole branch out just down to the main there. My pruning saw. So that one's done. I didn't see any other branches. Well, there might be one more right here. See that right there? Looks like there's some sap flowing. I think I'm going to take this one down. See, this branch looks okay, so I think I'm just going to take it down to here. We'll see what happens. So here's the disease right here. We want to make sure that we cut off anything that's looking sick, like that. Okay, so I'm going to look over the rest of this tree and make sure I didn't miss anything, miss anything that is diseased. Okay, so let me clean off my tool here. I think this is the only one I used, isn't it? Ooh, I can see one up there. See this? I need the ladder. So I went and got the ladder so I could reach some of the taller branches. This one is not ideal. You would want a real orchard ladder, but I couldn't find it. So we're just gonna use what we got. So I'm gonna clean off all my blades that I used on this tree that had disease with some isopropyl alcohol, because we don't want to spread any disease from tree to tree. So we want to do that in between all the trees ideally, so you're not spreading anything. Okay, so another part of the cleanup step is to cut out any water sprouts or suckers. Let me show you some suckers. We have one tree down here that has them. So all of these things right here, they're not coming from the tree, they're coming from the root that's below the graft of the tree, and we don't want those. So we need to clean all of those out. There's one. Okay, so we've got the suckers cleaned out. Now we're gonna go clean out some water sprouts. Let me show you. This tree actually doesn't have any water sprouts, but this one right here does. So water sprouts are really, really easy to tell. They are really long, gangly stems that shoot straight up from, usually they come from old buds that you can't see anymore. They're just kind of like buried in the bark, and all of a sudden, if the tree gets a bunch of energy, it'll shoot out a bunch of these and I'm out of breath. I need to work out. So most of the time you want to cut these out. They can be left and made into fruiting wood eventually if you've got a big hole somewhere in your tree where a branch is either split, or if you need to fill a spot, you can leave them, but most of the time you want them out because you don't want the tree sending energy into trying to keep these things alive. A lot of time too, they compete. See that? They're competing with that branch right there, and you don't want that. So that's water sprouts. So cleanup then is done. So we've done all of our diseased, damaged, and dead, and then all of our suckers and water sprouts. So now we move on to step number 2. And this is the part where winter pruning is so helpful for. We're going to be thinning the trees out, and it's nice to do them in the wintertime because you can see the whole structure of the tree. When there's no foliage on them, you can see exactly where all the branches are, exactly where you need to make your cuts. So that's what primarily winter pruning is for cleanup, thinning, and maybe a tiny bit of shape pruning. So what we're going to do, this is a perfect one for this, to show this off. The first part of thinning out is pretty easy. You just want to go in and look for any obvious problems, like anything that's growing in to the center of the tree, like these two here. There's another one right here, and anything that's competing. So look at this right here. It's already actually started to rub. You can see where it's rubbed on this branch. So we want to cut anything like that out. So we'll do that. And the goal of thinning out, it actually doesn't create a whole lot of vigor in the tree. It just opens up the tree for more air circulation and more light. See how this branch is just cruising right back up the center of the tree? We don't want that. So we're going to take the whole branch out. And that's what thinning is just taking whole branches out to open the tree up. Here are some really quick tips for you as you're thinning out your fruit trees. Cut out any crisscrossing branches like this. Cut out any downward facing branches like this one. Cut out any branches that are growing back toward the center of the tree like this one. Crotches, I feel weird saying that. Branches that are left at less than a 10 and 2 angle have a greater potential of splitting due to fruit load later on. I'm going to leave this one though for now because I think we'll be okay. You can always take out stuff later. That's one thing that you always need to remember. You can prune light now, and you can always do some summer pruning later. You're not stuck. Once you've removed all of the obvious problems, you want to stand back and take a look at the entire structure of your tree and then just continue to thin until you have a good 6 to 12 inches around each branch. Okay, so now we have finished our necessary steps. The first step was cleanup and the second step was thinning out. So our third and last step is what we call heading back your fruit tree, or basically giving it a haircut. It is really, really important for you to know what type of wood your fruit tree bears on. So like for apples and pears, they bear on old wood or on spurs, like right back in here you can see. Right here, all of these little short stubby growths is where they will fruit from. But trees like your peaches and nectarines, those ones bear on new wood. So it's really important to know what kind of wood that they grow on so that you're not cutting it all off so that you'll still get fruit. And you also only want to head back only when you need to do it for size control, or if you need to do it for shaping of your tree. So like on apple trees, it's not as essential to worry about how much you're heading back. Especially like this one, we don't really want it to be any taller than it is because it's already hard enough to harvest fruit that's up high, I should say. So we can head that back and it'll keep it more in check, but keep in mind that the more you head it back, the more vegetative growth you'll get in the spring, because in the fall, your tree will be storing up lots of energy in the trunk and in the root system. And if you cut off a lot of the points of growth that the tree has grown from the last year, then it doesn't have as many places to send all that energy. So all of a sudden you'll probably get lots of water sprouts and lots of vegetative growth, which really you want to selectively prune so that you're really it's sending the energy to more fruit growth. So on the apple tree, I'm just going to go up onto the ladder and I'm just going to selectively head it back just here and there just to shape the tree, and that is it. One other really important thing when you're heading back a tree, or really cutting it along the stem anywhere, you want to make sure that you're cutting above a bud that's heading in the direction that you want it to grow. You don't want to cut like a bud that's right here, because that will want to make the branch go right back into the tree. So this one's perfect right here. Just cut it about 1/4 of an inch above, just like that. So you can just go around your tree and selectively prune just to shape. And that's another thing. There are 3 basic shapes of fruit trees. Apples and pears you'll most often find with a central leader, the one right behind you actually. That's a really good example of a central leader trained tree where there's one really dominant upward branch. The one right here is kind of a multi-leader system going on, which in my area is really important to do because we deal with blight a lot, especially on pear trees. So if you've got just 1 leader and you lose it to blight, it's really hard to rebound your tree's shape. But if you've got it in a multi-leader kind of situation and you lose one of the leaders, it's a lot easier to recuperate the shape of your tree. And then your peach and nectarines are most often pruned in a vase shape so that the center is open and it's just got a lot of outward growth kind of shaped like that. All right, I'm just gonna prune on this one and then I'll show you the peach. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, so real quick, let me show you what the new growth on a peach tree looks like. You can distinguish it by there's usually like a wrinkly spot on the bark, and then there's a bunch of like real pliable growth on the end. So all of this growth took place last year, and this is where the peach tree is going to fruit from. So you don't want to cut all of it off. So it is a good idea to take back some of it, like right here. Oh, that will take it up. Let's see, I'm going to take it back like right here. That way I eliminated a little bit of its fruit load for this year, and this will need to be done around the whole perimeter of the tree because, I mean, just imagine how much fruit that means if all of these things turn into peaches. So it's a really good idea to come in and thin out branches and cut back just a little bit so that you're kind of helping the tree out. Okay, so very last thing, you want to make sure to clean up all of your stuff, all of your debris that you've cut off your trees, especially if your trees are diseased. Make sure to clean it all up, clean up all around the base of your trees and go dispose of it. Go, if it's diseased, I'd burn it. You can compost or chip the rest of it up. Good practices for pruning are to use really super sharp pruners. That way you get really clean cuts. Make sure to clean them with isopropyl alcohol between each tree so that you're not spreading any potential diseases or problems. Make sure not to go crazy on heading cuts in the wintertime because you don't want to mess up your tree or cut off too much fruit. I mean, you can Google this and there's a wealth of information online. Of course, this was not a complete tutorial, and this was on trees that are more mature that have been pruned along the way. So if you've got a mess of a tree that you've either bought a house and there was an orchard there that hadn't been taken care of or whatever, make sure that if you've got a mess going on, not to prune it all back in the same year. You want to spread it out between a 2 to 3 year period. So there you go. There's your unprofessional guide to fruit tree pruning. It has worked great for us throughout the years, and yeah, kind of takes the guesswork out of it. I hope that you guys are now brave enough to go put in a fruit tree or two and then prune them. Fort Knox for this girl. She will eat her way out of a kennel and then she will eat her way into the house. So she has to be locked down. You're a sweet girl. Bye, Neens.
I have it on good authority that Tessa is the smartest dog that ever walked the face of the earth.
My mom talking there, isn't it?